Hi, I'm Jake, and today I'm going to help you build the best 500 point and 1000 point Death Guard list that I possibly can for you, because why settle for less than spectacular? If you're new to the channel, what I do here is primarily cover competitive 40k content, and I also host fun and informative battle reports at various competitive levels. We've also been toying around with a live stream format like the recent Drunk Hammer doubles last week, in case you caught that, which featured a more casual 1000 points list of mine. And while it started as an experimental feature simply to test out the live stream hardware, I'm actually considering making Drunk Hammer a first Friday of every month type of schedule. I don't really know yet, but we'll see. So if this kind of content interests you, you can stay up to date by staying subscribed, which greatly helps the production of more content. This video's topic, as well as the previous one, which went over how to choose Blightlord Terminators over Death Shrouds, were decided on by popularity vote, which shows up in your YouTube feed as long as you're a current subscriber. I really love this feature and plan to utilize it a whole lot more so you guys can actually influence the channel's content. Okay, let's kick this off by saying 2000 point Strike Force army lists typically do not translate well into smaller scales, notably 500 points for combat patrols or 1000 point incursion games. Reason being is there's a ton of synergy in optimized 2000 points lists where scaling them down in the literal sense of points doesn't quite hit the same for pretty much every reason imaginable. What you should primarily consider focusing on is being as points efficient as you possibly can. Sure, you can fit in toys such as Plague Burst Crawlers or even Mortarion himself in a 1000 points list, but doing so will cripple your army efficiency tremendously. Basically, you'll want to start off with the mindset of don't try anything fancy at the 1000 point level, and that especially applies at the 500 point scale. Death Guard as an army already have a built-in advantage of tremendous durability thanks to their high toughness overall and disgustingly resilient damage mitigation. As always, there's no right or wrong way to come up with any kind of list for Warhammer. I'm just here to share the most optimal approach I've personally found, which may potentially make you that guy at small points games or your escalation league. So whether you are participating in a local escalation league, smaller points tournament, or simply enjoying playing at lower points values, why not make your Death Guard be the best that they can be? All right, so let's start at the 500 point scale, and here's the first list. I built the foundation of this list with Blightlord Terminators, which provide an insane level of efficiency, being 40 points per model for a 2-up save and 4-up invulnerable save. At 500 points, this unit will be extremely difficult for any of your opponents to shift off the board or even go toe-to-toe to contest an objective. I've even added a flail and a blight launcher, since for an extra 10 measly points, the Terminators are now really flexible units. The Plague Marines were also slightly upgraded, where one Marine was given a second Plague knife for an extra attack, as well as one Marine having a cleaver. Don't forget, we have access to the Haze of Corruption stratagem, which spills over damage, and that's pretty sweet on a d6 damage weapon, assuming Nurgle blessed your dice that day. Not to mention, having a Strength 8 cleaver in itself is pretty amazing in the event you encounter some light or heavy mech during your games. The Poxwalkers are essentially there to just park and hold on objectives, since they're the most efficient troop choice at 5 points per model. They have a natural toughness of 4 and can be revived using the Dead Walk Again stratagem, as well as killing enemy models in combat. Most importantly, they don't need to take morale checks, so you can always count on them staying there, assuming they survived the turn. Lastly, the play company chosen here is the Inexorable, simply to gain access to the -2 to enemy charge stratagem. That alone can win you a game, as well as save a precious unit of yours, who can in turn charge the threat themselves next turn. The whole army here is led by a Lord of Contagion, who is an absolute beast. Add on the Rotten Constitution Warlord trait, which ignores AP 1 and 2, means he'll usually be saving on 2s, and if something hits him with more than AP 3, that will just trigger his 5-up invul save. This durability buff is next to, 4-up invul save. I was thinking the Demon Prince. This durability buff is next to none, especially at this points level. I wouldn't suggest considering anything else if running a Lord variant. You want to play this list hyper aggressively, where your Poxwalker's role is to hold on objectives in the flanks or even in your backline, while the rest of your army, including your lord, moves up as quickly as possible, gaining cover or obscuring benefits when you can, of course. Then killing everything they come into contact with. For the second 500-point list variation, it's designed with a similar format in mind, but with more Terminators. Having 8 Terminators, 5 Blight Lords, and 3 Death Shrouds gives you 24 toughness 5 wounds, which have a 2-up and 4-up invul save, which will terrify pretty much any opponent. You have deep strike capability here, or flexibility here, should you situationally need in case you notice a tactical advantage to score and win you your game. Alternatively, your Shrouds can walk up the board bodyguarding your Plaguecaster, who should either have Curse of the Leper or even Plague Wind if you're going up against a Horde. The Mortal Wound output potential at 500 points is pretty insane in the case of Plague Wind, but even with the Curse of the Leper maxing out at 7 mortals is nothing to scoff at since the body counts overall are way down. I also gave the Plaguecaster Arch Contaminator since both Terminator variants can bubble wrap him to protect him, and benefit from rerolling all wounds with Plague weapons should be quite easy. And mind you, 3 Death Shrouds with the sweeping weapon profile generates an impressive 26 attacks alone. So same strategy here, park, hold, kill everything as fast as possible, win. Moving on to the 1,000 points lists. Well, the concept remains similar. You gain far more flexibility and tools jumping up to this scale. For list variant number 1, I started building the list around 3 units of Death Shroud Terminators. Yeah, 3 units of 3, it's a lot. Are you starting to notice a pattern yet? Death Guard absolutely excel in durability and melee overall. What small points lists do is make you lean into what your army does best. I added in a Biologist Putrefier, which I absolutely love at 1,000 points, turning Death Shrouds from incredibly strong to straight up nightmare-inducing. I would argue that a Foul Blight Spawn could be a better choice, but I feel it's not necessary considering running Mortarian's Anvil's Plague Company, which grants you access to heroically intervening with all of your eligible units. Your opponent will absolutely think twice about charging you entirely if you have a single command point remaining. I then added in 3 units of 10 Poxwalkers, which gives you that board coverage and or screening flexibility as needed. Poxwalkers won't, or at least shouldn't, be ignored by your opponent, considering the mutant strain strat exists and can shell out a healthy amount of mortal wounds, even just with a 10-man squad, since they have 2 attacks each. On top of these 30 bodies, we have 2 individual Chaos Spawn, which for a mere 23 points each are fast enough to run up to objectives, hold them, they're durable enough to take some hits, and just overall points efficient. Not to mention, they have a large enough base footprint to deny enemy deep strikes, since that becomes a potential threat now at 1,000 points. What I'm really excited about in this list is the inclusion of a Demon Prince with wings as well as a Malignant Plaguecaster. The Demon Prince is kitted out with the Separating Plate Relic, granting him a 2-up save, and the Rotten Constitution Warlord trait, just like you saw in the first 500 points list, making him an absolute monster who can contest aircrafts and survive a ton of firepower. Mind you, you should still protect him with Death Shrouds if you're facing a high AP or even just a heavy shooting army. You can only take so many hits. Between his spell and the defensive buffs the Plaguecaster can pump out, your 1,000-point army should not only be well protected, but highly threatening overall. For the last and final list variation, I added some more board coverage flexibility while still maintaining an insane threat level from 3 fetid bloat drones equipped with flesh mowers. Those 3 units combined will dish out 36 Strength 7 AP2 2 damage attacks, which translates to an insane amount of killing power. Since the list also has a 5-man unit of Blight Lords and a 3-man Death Shroud unit, your opponent will probably get really stressed out, and that's the point, deciding on which targets to prioritize. Here I went with an Outrider detachment just to free up points alone, since needing extra troop slots and such for a battalion. As outside of the basic stratagems and even the bloat drone stratagem where they can heroically intervene, you shouldn't feel too CP starved. Once again, leading the army is a buffed up Lord of Contagion, but this time equipped with a Man Reaper and Orb of Desecration, which makes him even more flexible for your needs. Why I included 2 variations of each point bracket is because I'm a firm believer that varying playstyles greatly affects how lists function from player to player. And while my own personal style has many common similarities, they come from being attracted to the Death Guard faction innately because of how well they lean into their strengths. All I'm doing here is optimizing that as much as possible. So that's my take on the best 500 and 1,000 point Death Guard lists. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's been working for you and what might not be. Or even more exciting to me is hearing feedback on how any of these lists perform for you in your own setting, should you decide to try them out. Also, feel free to share this video with any of your fellow Death Guard friends who may have been struggling at these points levels, because sharing is caring. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, and if you found this video to be helpful or informative by any measure and would like to see more content like this, please stay subscribed, share the video with a friend who might need it, and join in on the conversation below. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.